Hello and welcome to another episode of Mind the Gap. I'm excited to be joined by Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke joins us from BW Legal. Good to see you, Sam.
Nice to see you too.
I know that you have spent the last 11 years at BW Legal making significant strides in your career, continuously developing your expertise in making a lasting impact on the organisation's L&D development initiatives. A big focus on L&D specifically, but you personally hold your own CIPD Level 7 qualification, specialising in learning and development. You've also got your ILM Level 5 in management. It really shows your commitment to your own personal development, ongoing growth. From our conversations, you've got a true passion for L&D that's driven by the desire to create bespoke, engaging training materials that meet the unique needs of the colleagues and business, as well as driving self-directed learning. You've done a lot and you've got a lot more that you want to share with our audience, so that's exciting. So I really appreciate you spending the time and joining us today.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having us on.
I'm really excited to say that we're going to be talking about fostering a feedback-driven culture at BW today. So that's going to be the main focus of our conversation. But as always, before we jump into that, I want to go into some quick-fire questions. So what's one thing that's consuming lots of your thinking at the moment?
To say we're talking about a feedback culture, the one big thinking really is the evaluation from a business strategic perspective, not just have you enjoyed it, what would you like to see, what would you want to do more of, but actually kind of thinking more about how we're changing through behaviour and kind of the wider business impact really. So we're having quite a big project at the moment in terms of getting the frameworks together and the processes right, so we can actually see the actual impact it's having, not just from a user perspective.
Yeah, and so that's taking it from user evaluation or feedback to actually the impact of the business. So.
Yeah. So kind of, is it adding value, return of investment, kind of how is it impacting other departments and heads of departments? We've got a lot of projects going on. So it's almost like kind of, we see the results from like kind of your scores and, kind of your 5-star ratings, but it's really delving now deeper into, what is actually quite useful. And actually, are we missing things? Are we just focusing too much on what people want to see and actually what they do need to have at the same time?
Yeah, I think linking learning, development, skills outcomes to business outcomes is absolutely critical in L&D now. And I think a lot of people are thinking and talking about it. Certainly something we're focused on as well.
Yeah.
What's one piece of recent learning? You're obviously an avid learner and you're a learner in terms of your own right inside your organisation and as an individual. Anything that you've recently learned that everyone else who's listening could benefit from?
Probably AI is a big thing at the moment, isn't it? Like your chat GPTs coming up, your text to images, how it's kind of translating in the industry and how people are wanting to learn as well. But I was looking at a book called You Look Like a Thing and I Love You by Janelle Shanes, I think it is. And they talk about in terms of AI and how it's just changing into this weird world and how we can utilize it. But the one thing I really got from it is that quite often, and don't get me wrong, in certain contexts, it is a scary thing and it is that conversation of going, is it going to really take over? But actually you can really use it as a tool. It shouldn't be a replacement, but you need to use it as a tool to help you. I think probably a lot of things have come up in life where people have thought, God, what's that going to change? How's it going to change it? It's going to just completely, calculators, your Siri on your phone. How often has it gone from what on earth is this to actually it's not replaced my life, but it's helping my life? I'm still learning it. What is that fine balance between, is it going to be the full control to actually how do I use it to help me rather than it use me at the same time?
Yeah, I've been doing lots. I think everyone probably is doing lots of reading, and I think there's been a big hype kind of narrative about job replacement and other things like that. There's actually quite a lot of, I guess, counter narrative coming out in relation to more what you're just highlighting, that it really is a tool to augment human capability. It's not about replacement necessarily. I think that also there's quite a lot of statistical evidence around generative AI projects that are actually failing. I think 80% failure rate, according to a RAND study recently for 2024 projects. So I think it always comes back to, and it's something that you mentioned right at the start, it's like is it linked to driving a specific outcome, and do organizations know why they're implementing AI to
Mm,
drive specific outcomes? And certainly for
mm.
us as a software company, we're really thinking about that and seeing it as a tool to be able to help
What's quite
individuals.
interesting, yeah, because in the book, they talk about in terms of like your human brain neurons and like your AI neurons is literally zero, and it only comes about from what you put into it. But the algorithms and what's been put into it doesn't necessarily feed it. There was like talk about a study, like, what is a fish? But the pictures that they were putting into it had people's fingers in it. So the AI is thinking a fish is like has human
Has
fingers
fingers.
to it.
Yeah,
So it's
wow.
only driven by what actually you put into it. But I am not doubting that there is industries out there that's really kind of nailing what you drive into it to get out of it. But I suppose it's kind of how do we learn to use it as that tool, not just, oh, it's just going to take it over. How do we adapt with it? How do we use it? How do we actually kind of grow with it? Because it's ever coming, isn't it, really?
Yeah, 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 and we could probably talk about this topic for the whole time together. So, appreciating that it's going to be a big topic is something that we're all going to be interested in. I think that's a really interesting perspective in terms of
Mm.
and a recommendation for a book that maybe we can put a link to in the when we share this podcast. Um, the last one, then, one thing that you wish you'd known earlier in your career that you bank now if you were starting again.
One thing I've been thinking of quite a lot recently is how on earth have I got here? Like it's kind of one of those full circle moments going, oh my god, what's going on? And if I could go back in time, the one thing I would say is failing doesn't mean you're a failure. I think in my early career, and probably still now, to be fair, if I'm really honest with myself, there's moments now where I just, if something's gone wrong, you kind of just look and go, oh, that's me, that's my, and it's learning that actually it doesn't mean it was personal to you. It's just, it just didn't fit the brief. It just didn't work. That's all it is.
Mm,
It's not to do with you. It's nothing that way. So it's almost like if I could go back and go, don't worry about feeling, you just need to learn from it. It's not personal to you. It's
yeah.
growth, it's resilience, it's adaptability. That's what I massively tell myself.
It's so interesting. I think I said we've obviously been recording a few of these, and one of them was on the growth mindset in industry. Another one has been on the idea of personal power, and I guess a momentum mindset too. And they're all linked together, and there's so much linkage between
Yeah.
these topics and how you are able to address situations like failure, or seeing it as
Mm.
you know a reason to blame other people or an
Mhm.
opportunity to learn, or
Yeah.
whatever it ends up being, in the way that your mindset plays such a critical role in that.
Yeah. And it's just a hard thing, isn't it? Especially kind of, and in L&D as well, when you've created something, when you've done something from scratch and it kind of goes out there and it just doesn't quite work or it doesn't get the sign off, it's not because it's you, it's just it didn't fit the brief, it wasn't right, and that's it. And you got to learn with that and grow with that. But it's almost a kind of point of, you made the point that often you choose to blame someone else. I'll always go back to, I'll only blame me, and actually, like you just take it a bit too harsh, and I should be
Yeah.
kinder to myself, really.
So that hopefully feeds nicely into our main topic, which again links into growth, links into being able to understand and develop yourself better. But you've also been working hard on fostering a feedback-driven culture at BW, and we wanted to share and talk about some of the lessons learned, the part of the journey that you've been on, and obviously any experiences and practical examples that can help people maybe bridge a knowledge gap or jump ahead. Um, so I think it'd be good to start with just thinking about what was the kind of aha or moment that you realised that BW needed a feedback-driven culture shift.
Yeah. About 3 or 4 years ago, we started to see a clear decline in our engagement. Within 3 years, courses were dropping by 21%. In 2022, 69% of colleagues were only doing mandatory on time. So we were really looking at that going, right, something needs to change here. We were looking at our approach to things, but the best way we realised actually to shake things up is to go directly to the people that use it. And it's to go to the colleagues, because they're the only ones that can really tell us what's working, what's not working, what they want to see, what they want to do. Because if you engage them, then engagement statistics change as well. So we started listening more closely to the colleagues' feedback. We started building practical, targeted content, but it had to. we didn't want it to just be a one-time thing. We didn't want to just go, okay, what's going on? And I'll see you again in a year when we ask you later. This had to be part of our culture and had to be a regular thing. So I think it was September 2022, so the back end of the year, we developed our L&D Champions initiative. And these L&D Champions are colleagues across all departments, and they're recruited to become these feedback champions. And they shape our L&D courses and projects and kind of help steer us in that direction that what we're building, what we're doing works. And it's kind of, it was that moment of realization of going, we can't do this just in our own bubble of L&D anymore, of what people want to see. We've got to go out there, and we've got to make it a permanent thing, not just oh, let's see what we can do next year. It's
Yeah, sorry, I'm not wanting to interrupt. I guess one of the things that's really interesting is you're talking about you're going to the source, you're going to your people. Just trying to understand, was there initial kind of like pushback, or are there any things that you've learnt work particularly well in the way in which you do that? Are there any tips or hints that can help people understand the best approach to that?
I don't. There wasn't any kind of initial setback. I think it's more about when we started this, it was really new. Like it was like we didn't really know what we were expecting to happen, but they also didn't know what they were expecting. So you've got to just learn with that and kind of continuously adapt it as well. It's almost like kind of overly communicating. You've got to overly communicate what it is we're expecting, what it is that we're doing with it as well, because that whole project that we kind of created was something, wasn't just a final thing. It's almost like you've got to just, here's your rough launch and learn with it as you go along with it, as well, because there's so much intricacies to it as well with the project.
So not necessarily resistance, just some unknowns is probably what
Yeah,
you're.
and also like kind of what we were going to hear, how much we were going to hear with it as well. So our, the champions itself, so we had a big like recruitment campaign with it. So we didn't just select every, kind of, well, they're all right, we'll just choose them. They had an opportunity to recruit for this and went through an interview process with them. And so we were finding the right people as well. But you kind of have this mental number in your head, don't you, going, oh, there's going to be loads of people. And then you worry going, oh, it is not enough people. What do we do? And if there's too many people, what do we do? And you kind of have that kind of moment, what happens if people don't get the chance to be a champion? What's their development program? And it grows a little bit more than just, just get people on board and give us feedback. But, the champions itself, we wanted it to kind of be a really solid kind of responsibility and an accountability for it as well.
Yeah. Are there any characteristics of those champions that have stood out as like great champions? Is there anything about role, personality type, involvement? Are there any things that some of the characteristics, or are there some of the questions? You went through an interview process where there's some things that you were really looking for that to help you get the right candidates?
I suppose it's wanting people that were eager to come out the shell. We had a few interviews with people where that was their character. They were, extroverts. They were very happy to have that conversation. But there were people coming forward that were quite introverted, and they wanted that opportunity to really kind of get that guidance from us to be able to speak up and be able to do that as well. So kind of with the recruitment process, when they were onboarded, we had then a development plan for them. So we had the opportunity to really spend some time with them in these workshops and kind of going, right, okay, so what are we expecting? How to use a learning hub? How to use it from our side as well. So understanding how we work with it. So it's not just, you see it from an end user perspective, but also understanding from how we're utilising it, so that when it comes to their ideas and what they want to see on the system, they have a little bit of background of understanding, right, there's this feature here, there's promoted courses, they can do it in catalogues, and, they can kind of delve a little bit further into it, how to ask the right questions. It wasn't necessarily someone that's really shy. It was who shows our values, who shows that commitment, who shows that interest to be able to kind of communicate correctly with it as well. And there's obviously, standards, length of service had to be in there. So you're not just kind of walking in day one and, you've got to kind of do their training and kind of get on board and get them that focus first. But it was almost like kind of, were they genuinely interested in what they were coming forward to do? And we always review it. So the cycle, it's a 6-month cycle for the L&D champions as well. So they knew it was a temporary process. So at 6 months they could go, I'm not right for that. I don't like it. It's far too out of my comfort zone for me. I found it really difficult and would support them in different ways. But then people have stayed on to do it. Other people have joined after 6 months. And it's just that nice cycle with it too.
It's a really nice initiative, and I'm sure lots of organisations have tried and maybe not been successful. But I know you've had great success with it. This is the last one, I promise, in a really practical level in relation to it. Did you have to put any rewards or any benefits in place for these individuals that would help them, or is it more just the actual that you get to have an impact? You're able to shape and share and improve, I guess, the overall offering that we give to our employees, and you have a part to play in that. Was that enough for people to get excited?
No, well, I hope that was enough for them to get excited. That's the only thing they got excited about. But there is a responsibility allowance there as well. So how we set it with the project is that they have 30 minutes weekly and they have a weekly mission. We've really branded it. We've done loads of fun with this. It's not just a, here you go, here's your champions, you've got the role done. I mean, they've created themselves as superheroes. They've had an opportunity to come and sit with L&D and make their own character. They're published on our training wall. So even when new starters walk in, the first thing they'll see is these superheroes literally like all over the wall. You've got
I think I've seen them in a backdrop in one of the meeting
yeah,
rooms.
kind of in the pictures as well. So you kind of have that enjoyment with it. You've got your development plan with it, but because they have these like weekly missions, there is a responsibility allowance for them each month that actually they can kind of get that extra reward because we're asking them to do that little bit more than their own. We've got to fit that in within their own responsibilities and their own operational demands as well. So hopefully, I'd like to think internally it's just their enjoyment of the role and making an impact. But I appreciate that there's other motivational factors that people want to also do this too.
Yeah, no, look, I think it's for people who are listening. It's a case of trying to, if they're thinking about building it from the ground up, there's lots of great pieces there already that you shared, and so the reward piece is particularly interesting. And I guess then thinking about the structure of the L&D Champion Initiative, how did you make it so that the feedback worked both ways? How did you make sure that you were able to get the information that you needed from them, and they felt like they were, as you said, bought in and part of that whole journey?
Yeah, so we had to really work on that structure and making sure it wasn't ever going to be forgotten, that we have it in our diaries, it's at the forefront of everything, what the projects we're doing. The one question we always ask is, what input can L&D champions have? So whenever we're looking at a project, it's always, what can we get from colleagues as well? They have a weekly mission. So every Monday morning, we'll send them out a mission, and they've got a responsibility to submit that by Friday. And we've structured it so it could be, they've got to test a course for us. So before it's live, it's almost like what we're doing with it. But then when it comes to the next week's mission, we'll always have an update of what's happened with that. You've said this, we're changing this, we're looking at that, look out for it the next session. But we also meet with them on a monthly basis as well. So we always have that monthly commitment where we call it a roundtable event, where we'll share key updates, what have they been involved in, and it's always that kind of, it has to be a commitment from two ways. If we're asking them to do something, we have to be committed to give that back to them as well. We're not just getting the feedback, we're closing that loop, we're closing that key functionality that keeps them coming back going, right, I've seen it and I've done it. And even if we can't do it for whatever reason, time, resource, it's just not physically possible on the system, we have to let them know, because they're just going to think, well, what's the point? You've got to ride the highs and lows with it. And also you've got to be very prepared to actually have that conversation with them going, look, it was a really good idea, but we just can't do it, and kind of gain their trust and understanding. So it takes a bit of negotiation. It takes a bit of, kind of accountability and responsibility and assertiveness with it as well. We've constantly been asking them, how do we make their role better as well? It'll be the question of going, right, okay, what are we doing now to make your role better? As an L&D champion, what else do you need from us? Sometimes it's, no, I'm quite happy with everything. For some, it's, I'd love to know more about how to really delve into questions. And sometimes those roundtable meetings, if you don't have a key project on, it's an opportunity to delve into those kind of that feedback. Okay, so you fed back that you wanted to know more about questioning and how to dive deeper. So this 30 minutes, we're going to do that. We're going to all go around the room and go, right, how do you do it in your department? How do you do it for you? How do you do it for there? What resistance do you get back? If someone asks you this, how to dive in deeper? So it's almost like you're continuously training them and developing them, but you're developing the role and you're
Yeah.
developing their input at the same time. It's don't just look at it as getting feedback. Look at it as looking after those, giving the feedback to delve in more as well.
Yeah. I love it. I think it sounds. I mean, it sounds brilliant. The fact that you've got the missions, you're setting, uh, goals on a weekly basis. You're having that feedback loop, and it feels like, again, which is great. You can't always do everything, right? But
Yeah,
you must be you must be getting value as an L&D team, though, from
yeah,
this session. You're giving them some things that are
mm,
going to improve their working life, their capability,
yeah.
their enjoyment, whatever it ends up being. Um, I guess when you look at this kind of feedback process that you've built, which is different to a lot of organisations that I've spoken to, and I think hopefully lots of people will be interested in hearing how you've built this. Are there differences in this initiative to like traditional feedback loops or other feedback loops that you've got in BW that you see, and are there lessons that you've learned as a result of going through this process?
I suppose I don't know whether I want to say it's any different. It's the key concept, isn't it? You do something, you get feedback, you action it, you input. It's just that loop, isn't it? But I suppose it's looking at it in a different way of how we kind of engage people in that. It's almost like, how do we engage people to actually want to give feedback? How do we engage people to give their ideas? And quite often, if it's not anonymous, so people are always like, oh, no, 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 no. I suppose it's just taking that time to really build the trust for people to honestly turn around to us and go, absolutely rubbish, it didn't work, obviously in a more constructive way, or
You've
really
only got
love
so much time to say it, though, right?
like, I've got a second, go, go, go. Um, but it's kind of like, how do you really kind of truly make that mark? And it's not it doesn't fix in a month. This isn't if you're trying to put this in place, it's not going to be solid in a month's time. There's times where we've dropped the ball because we've just got so busy in L&D. We've gone, oh my god, we've been honest with them. We've sat in a room and we've gone, I am so sorry, we've dropped it. How do we make it better for you so it doesn't drop off again? We've had ideas that we've had in terms of these roundtable events, and I'm kind of thinking, we're not getting the detail yet. We're not getting a wider business perspective. We're getting a good idea, but that idea is not great. So what else? But there's nothing else from that meeting. So we started using De Bono's hats in the meeting. So
Okay.
we've done a training session with them on actually what De Bono hats is and how to think more critical and creative. And we've got people from finance that are brilliant, but they're really analytical. So they don't think of anything else outside of that kind of structure. And you've got people that are really good at ideas, but don't think of the risk. And you've got to constantly evolve it based on what you're getting back and what you need back, and being ready to be wrong as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
if that answers
So
the question.
So it feels like there's a lot that's gone into this, I guess, feedback process and feedback driven cultural shift. It feels like you're getting lots of buy-in. Um, is there an example? Because I think everyone wants to hear the examples of when maybe champion feedback has changed a project or a learning initiative or had some sort of business impact. Are there any examples that you could share that where that's ultimately unfolded?
Loads. They've gone from shaping a course has got no engagement on, so they've looked at it and gone, actually, it needs more here, it needs more here, it needs this, and it's boosted the engagement that way. Some of the key large project that they've been responsible for is our mandatory refreshers. And mandatory is a key essential thing. It's compliance, it's regulatory, it's client requirements. And we got their feedback through it, and they've said, it's too long, boring, and all that lot. So we've transformed it into our every regulatory topic is like a 10-minute pop culture themed training. So our health and safety has been inspired by Inside Out, Pixar's kind of. So you press the buttons right, wrong sort of thing, and you're in someone's mind. Regulation has been inspired by many game shows, The Chase, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So we kind of really, anti-money laundering has been inspired by our own heist, and BW colleagues have to stop the criminal from happening. And so we're putting these pop culture references in more BW life policies and procedures and what we see day to day, rather than just here's GDPR, here's a topic. And that's absolutely fine. That's, there's no problem with it. It has to be done. But we took their feedback, and actually they want to enjoy what they're doing. They have to do it once a month. So we've pulled from all kinds of culture shows and, how to captivate attention, and to the point where, you see people on your dinner and they're going, oh, I've just done that. It was really funny. And what's next? And you can see the enjoyment. So that's kind of one key project. Another key project is that they've helped shape our reward scheme for rewarding colleagues who do their own self-development. It's called Learn and Earn, if I say it correctly and not too quick. It doesn't merge into one. The Yorkshire accent and all that lot. But it's a concept where, because we didn't have that drive of engagement, there are a lot of people saying, well, what about gamification and rewarding people for doing it? And we thought, well, okay, let's drive on that. So for any colleague that does any learning outside of work through their learning hub, we reward them through our BW currency called reward beans. And that's paid through our reward and recognition platform, so they can spend them on savings, on shopping and everything that way as well. But, it's a case of that all the content that's driven with this Learn and Earn self-development framework and the catalogues is driven by colleagues as well. So they fed back that they want to see more of this. We've built it and we're rewarding them for doing it in their own time. So we're giving them, although they might not have time operationally if we're high in demand and hours, but if they're still doing it outside of work, they're still getting that recognition that they can apply it both inside work. But the content as well is supportive for outside of work. We are firm believers that if a colleague is supported and well outside of work, that they'll be supported and well inside of work. And that's what the key concept with these courses are as well. We don't just go to the traditional how to do your job, here's your training, but we've got courses on credit scores and how to, what a mortgage is, for people coming into the world of working. It's almost a case of how to manage stress, how to win friends and influence people, and driving from key resources, but how to be more eco-friendly and have an eco-friendly lifestyle, because that's quite a big thing at the moment. So it's almost like the champions are still, even after this has been in place now for nearly 2 years, they're still driving that feedback. What do your team want to see? Right, let's go away and build it. And it's constantly driving that engagement and reward that actually if they're doing it, then we've got that impact back there as well. So I could talk about what the champions have done all day. I'm very proud of the stuff that they've got involvement in, because it, like I say, it can range from really small detail to these huge projects that they still are part of as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and the way that I think about it is a bit like us as a company. We want to engage our customers to understand the direction of what we put on our roadmap to be able to support the outcomes that they want. You're doing exactly, your internal customer is in your champions. You're finding out exactly what they need, and it's clearly having a direct impact on lots of initiatives. I really like the fact that, and something that we talk about a lot is, if you're obviously there's a compliance element to a lot of learning cultures because of the fact that we have to keep our business and our people safe, but at the same time being able to make sure that for our employees there's value that's not necessarily linked directly to the organization. It's linked to themselves and developing themselves, acquiring new skills, gives them a reason to be able to go back in and carry on learning. I think that's really important.
It's kind of giving them that kind of trust in us as well, that actually we're not just focused on you, we only focus on you wanting to do your job, that's it. But how are you well? How are you supported? How are you going to be able to thrive? How can you be the best that you can be? And it doesn't just fit that task. It fits so much wider in that, because I also think you can be two different people. You can be someone inside of work, and you can be someone outside of work. The next generation coming in who aren't quite used to a workplace, who might have been in hospitality, never worked in an office before. There's just so much that you can transfer. There's a load of transferable skills, but actually, how do you really thrive in it, and how do you become more confident? Because I can sit outside with my friends all day and chat and do everything, but if someone asks me to do some presenting in front of 1,000 strangers, it's a big no. So how do you translate the two? How do you kind of do it that way? But then transferably, you could be really good in talking to people in your job, but outside of work, it might not be as great. So again, how do we build people up to be well and happy in both areas of their life?
Yeah. And I think, it sounds like you're doing a lot towards that, and getting that feedback loop is so critical to understanding whether you're having an impact. But are there some engagement or outcomes that have happened off the back of some of these feedback initiatives that have directly been impact? Have you got some outcomes that have moved in the right way, or maybe not in the
Yeah.
right way, and that you've learned from?
There's been courses that we still don't have the engagement on. You're kind of going, okay, what more can we do with this? And sometimes it's just, you just got to let that be. Don't waste more energy on what's needed. I've got to remember that there is going to be a generational gap at some point now, where actually what I think is probably really cool and interesting, definitely never heard of before in someone's life. It's almost like to the point that my niece, she knows Tom Fletcher as an author. I know Tom Fletcher as McFly. And that's a big generational gap there now, where it's like, you've got to kind of keep moving with it. And that's where our colleagues come in with that, what is good for them. So our mandatory is at 100% completion. Our engagement has increased by, 41% within the first year increase of engagement. Average course ratings went from 4 stars to 4.9 stars on average. So the learning and engagement figures, every month we go, oh God, it's the biggest month yet. Next month, it's the biggest month yet. And the word gets spread out, and, they start seeing things that actually I've been involved in. It slowly makes that impact to a point where you realise after a year, you go, ooh, how good was that? It's, you're never going to see perfection, but you will definitely see growth.
Yeah, 100% completion sounds close to perfection. So that you've done it from, I think you're saying around 60, low 60s up to
69%,
100%.
yeah, but yeah,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of work from behind the scenes. Isn't just me saying it, and it's one of me doing it. The team does all of that and does a really good job with it, But it is to the point where, because it's 10 minutes of your day a month, you can get it all out as well.
yeah, nice. I love the fact that you're using humour and pop culture as part of your
Yeah.
strategy. And I think part of me worries if you've got enough runway to keep going with all the different versions. But I imagine there are enough games, and maybe you have to branch
It,
outside of.
it does get. I remember December last year. We sat down and we looked at the calendar. Right, what references have we done? What we use? What's next? And we sit there going, "Oh God, I don't know," because we change it every year as well. There are some that have that same theme and that same kind of topic for it, but we like to keep things, because if you do something the same over and over again, they're not going to remember. It's memory rather than actual impact, isn't it? It's, oh yeah, I remember this from last year. It's B, just B, B, A, C, D, done. Yeah, you go. Where actually you can see it, and policies change and practices change. We always like to keep it relevant, but it can be a minefield of what is practical as well. We've had loads of fun with it though. It's quite good fun.
I can imagine it's not surprising that it's helped improve outcomes based on what you said. Are there any ones that you think have specifically driven up completion rates or application of learning that you think are really like, oh, this one I remember had a real impact, or there's one that the whole company ended up talking about as a result of it going out?
We've had Wild West themes. That was always quite a good laughter one with that one. We had a line of duty inspired for money
Okay.
laundering, but that was quite hot on the topic when it was like there,
Yeah.
so it was like kind of, oh yeah, it's quite relevant. Our health and safety one recently, we did 360 tours of the actual office and made that a bit more kind of realistic. But the year before was the inside out. You're now at the drink zone area and you see a spill and it goes straight in your mind and you go, do you A? Do the anger approach? Do you have the joy approach, or do you have the sensible approach? So yeah, I wouldn't say one stands out more than the other, but I know I have my personal highlights as well. But doesn't mean that any other one of them is wrong or whatnot as well.
I'm really interested in just kind of understanding the most amount of practical or real advice that we can give or support for people wanting to go through this journey themselves. Are there some big lessons that you learned in rolling this whole process out, and anything you do differently now if you were to go through that process?
I suppose if I had to do it all again, it'd be to communicate a little bit more. Is to understand that, I was very excited for the project when it started. I was very excited to kind of roll it out, but I have to remember I know the information because I wrote the framework, and you've built it, you've got that concept, but other people don't have that. They don't have your mind. They don't see what's in your mind, and you've got to be aware that you've got to adapt your communication many, many times to get that process going as well. So where do we communicate, who do we communicate it to, and how often do you communicate it as well? So it was almost like, here's the launch of the champions, they're now live, but don't leave it too long before your checkpoint as well. So how do our new starters that join the business know about these champions? How do they know where they are? And we've had to build like little kind of touch points about them within that induction process to make sure that they know where they are. But again, there's still work to do with that, because you remember so much as new starters, don't you? How do you go far onto it as well? So there was no general kind of large failings, but there's definitely learnings where actually you could just improve these little steps a little bit further in terms of communication, how we run the round table meetings, how we track engagement with the champions as well, and being open to conversations. Actually, if it's not working for someone, being the assertive one and having those conversations rather than waiting for someone to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I know from working in our organisation, repetition, the message has to go from leadership, it has to go from managers, it has to go bottom up, it has to be repeated multiple times, and then you've got to think about all the new people that join too, and
Yeah.
making sure that
And
message gets
where's
to
it
them.
visible? You can just say it, but where can they find it if they want to look at it later on? What does our internet look like? Is it the same branding? Is it up to date? And you've got to constantly have this within like the kind of regular monthly, weekly kind of cycle of looking at it, looking at the process and looking at how it works, because otherwise that's how it does drop off. I was having a conversation this morning of what we do for the Champions mission next week. You've got to make sure that you've given it the time it deserves, because they're doing they're doing a really good job at it, and it's that trust and respect you need to give to them to know that, okay, we've given our standards of what we'll do for you. All we ask of you is in return, but we're going to actually do what we're saying, and actually
Yeah.
speak louder than words, don't they?
Yeah, and have leadership bought into this initiative? And is there any kind of direct support, or is that something that you feel could be even better inside this? I often speak to L&D leaders, and that's sometimes an element where there's some really good support for some initiatives. Some other initiatives don't necessarily have as much support. Obviously, there's it varies from initiative to initiative and organisation to organisation.
We often, if we're doing like a recruitment drive every 6 months, if we don't kind of get like a large number in, we'll often reach out to managers and go, and actually, is the people in your team that just need that little bit of a push? Maybe it's people that are ready to take their next step in their development, but aren't kind of forthcoming with it because they're a bit nervous. Maybe they don't understand it. Is there anyone that's tried to apply for a leadership position, but has failed application, and maybe they've got pipped to the post by someone else? Maybe it's their development because they need to come out the shell more, or whatnot. I'm not sure, but they are really good at kind of driving, going, oh, I've got a few people I've been really good at it, let me have those conversations. So where they're not forthcoming themselves, they are really good. Managers are really good in terms of helping drive people to kind of be there as well, and they're understanding as well. And we've got to have that understanding that operations takes precedence. So actually, some weeks that it's really high and we can't have them do their missions, it's a two-way communication with them too, which we do have quite well.
Yeah. I think it. Look, from my perspective, it feels like a really exciting initiative, and certainly it's having impact. And hopefully, maybe we can do another follow around for when we get to that next level of your more measurement on the business impact outside of your obviously completion, engagement rates going up, and all the other positive parts. Probably just to finish off, it'd be great to hear from you advice you give to other L&D leaders to help close the development gap using feedback as their driver. Is there like a place to start? What's the first thing that they maybe should think about doing as a finish for this podcast?
I suppose it starts small. If you've never done anything, like, if it's like kind of like, oh my God, I don't know where to start, just start by asking the question. Start by a simple form and a nice communication going, what can we do to help you? Just start with that simple question, because then the more you kind of get back, the more you realize you want to ask them more questions. So you can adapt your questions at that point. You can spend forever thinking about how to do it, but in essence, you've just got to ask a simple question. Did you enjoy that training? No. Why? And that just starts you off to where you need to go. And it's so easy to kind of go in, did you like it? Yeah, okay, right, bye. But you've got to just, what did you like? Why did you like that? Did it meet your needs? And you've just got to start the conversations. It probably sounds very easier said than done, but don't panic about the project, the frameworks, the implementation. If you're small enough to do it, then just start asking that question. If you're a larger company, then think about how do you broadcast that simple question outwards, and kind of change that initiative. And like you say, is it to your leaders downwards first, or is it the other way around as well? So you're never going to get
Yeah.
anywhere if you don't start.
No, that's the thing, isn't it? And you, it's sometimes daunting to kind of make that start, but it's so important that we just make that effort.
Mm.
Um, Sam, thank you so much. It's been really interesting to hear about your feedback culture and what you've done so far. I think there's been loads of really valuable hints and tips and advice for people to go on the journey, and hopefully lots of ideas to take into other people's organisations. So, a massive thank you for your time.
Oh no, thanks for having me, and thanks for listening. Honestly, I
Hopefully,
could
eh?
talk about this all day.
Let's hope.
So.